Okay, invariably, when you cut your back and your door, they're not going to fit perfect. You can come close. If you're lucky, it's really close. If not, you're going to have to do some modification. When you have to do the modification, you have to cut the door to fit the box. It's hard to cut the box to fit the door. So to do that, you put your piece down, you label on it, just put a mark. Maybe right here I'm going to put just a 1. And over here I'm going to put a 1. That way when I do my fitting, I know it's always going to go back in the same way. Set your box on top of it, on top of the door, and line it up. Look at the side, see how it's fitting, and then take a sharp pencil. On the back, a sharp pencil. And just draw a line around it and see where you're fitting. And this one is amazingly close. I can see I've got to take just a little bit off the end here to make it work. The edges, just a teeny bit. So for what I've got to do here, I'll probably do it on the belt sander. If I have to use the squaring jig, that big sliding sled on the table saw, you can use that as well. But the trick is to get it lined up. I've got a jig to do that with. Remember, when you use the edge sander, a lot of pressure isn't better. It doesn't mean it's going to sand better, or it may sand faster for just a minute, but then it's going to gum up the sander. Because again, when wood gets hot, it gets plastic and then it starts sticking to things. So when you want to sand it, you use light pressure and just touch it real easy until it sands away. You want to pull it up towards the belt and be closer to the belt. That way you have control. It's not going to grab. Spend a few minutes, and between the table saw, the sander, whatever, you can get that so it drops in there. And right now mine's just sitting in there from the friction from the fit. So that's the way you want it to fit. Now we'll work on the door. Okay, we've got the back. We know this is the way the back goes. The one's going to line up together like that. Put an arrow going in, make sure it's going the right direction. Now we got to fit the front, and the front is basically the same way. You just have to look at this and say, you know, do I have any defects I'm trying to hide? Any knots, any holes that don't look good? If one side looks better than the other, I want that to be my top. The top on the door is where the big hole is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this my top. So I'm just going to set it on like so. Try to center it as good as you can. And you can kind of look in there and just see how it's sitting. Then take your pencil, draw your line. Okay, now we can look at this one. My line is just really close, so I'm really close to the exact size I need for the square. But what I need to do, I'm going to cut my door smaller. I'm going to take it a little bit off the edge, about a 1/16 off the edge all the way around to make that work. So best way to do that is with the squaring jig on the table. I'm going to take off a 1/16 of an inch. That blade is an 1/8 inch thick. So I'm just going to line it up. You say it doesn't have to be exactly right, but that blade is going to be lined up about halfway through that material, halfway through the blade. I'm just going to sight it in. I want to make sure these gaps are the same from the edge of here to the bottom, edge to the top, all the sides around. You want those to be very uniform. So See, I trimmed just a little bit off. Here's where it pays if you're very careful in getting on making your box square, checking everything, make sure everything's square, because it just makes it a lot easier. If it's really off, check with me, I'll help you square it up. But the jig, our clamping jig is square, everything's square. If you've done things right, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, after you've got that done, should fit in there. It should have a little bit of a gap all the way around it. Should be sitting in there square. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I know this is the top because this is where the hole is. So I'm going to mark this top right here. That way I'm not going to get confused when I start putting my hinges on. Now you want to take some time and round off these edges, sand the door, make it nice. Right now is the time to do that. You want to do that before you attach the door to the box. And also take some time sanding the box, getting the edges rounded off, make it look nice.